right, Jill, you may begin your opening statement whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and attention this week. I want to thank you in advance. We expect to prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt that on November the 26th of 2016, Joel Michael Guy Sr. was viciously attacked in his home in the exercise room that he had upstairs. During this assault, he sustained 42 sharp force injuries. You're going to hear proof from the medical examiner and from a forensic anthropologist about these injuries. And what you're going to hear is that these injuries were so severe that marks were left on his ribs, 12 of his ribs, marks ranging from scratches to complete severing. The medical examiner is going to tell you that the cause of his death was multiple sharp force injuries that caused damage to his lungs, to his liver, and to his kidneys. He sustained a wound to his scapula, which is where your shoulder is, and it was such a severe wound that a fragment from a blunt force instrument was left in the muscular tissue next to the bone. He sustained abdominal wounds, so he was attacked from the front as well as the back. Blood staining evidence in this exercise room that indicated that there was a fierce struggle. In one corner of the room, there is blood evidence to show that there was thrashing motion, and it left not only blood marks, but white marks and droplets on two walls of the room, and extensive blood staining on the carpet. After he was murdered, the killer disrobed him, meticulously took off his clothes, his shoes, his pants, his shirt and jacket, left them in a heap on the carpet. He left Joel Sr.'s cigarettes on top of the pile, and they were blood-stained. He left his hands in the room. At some point, Lisa Guy came home, and she too was subjected to a violent assault. And you're going to hear testimony and see proof of her injuries. She was stabbed 31 times, and she sustained serious injuries to her ribs. She had 21 rib injuries. 21. 9 of her ribs were severed. And you will hear a forensic anthropologist talk to you about the variation of the injuries to her ribs, indicating not just slice marks, scratches, severing, but also evidence that the sharp instrument used to stab her twisted into the cartilage of her ribs. And like Joel Sr., her clothes were removed from her. They were cut off and left in a bloody pile on top of a large blood stain on the carpet. So at some point after Joel Sr. and Lisa were murdered, the killer went to work on their bodies. Joel Sr.'s arms, both of them, were severed at the joint, the shoulder blade. Both of his legs were removed at the hip. His right foot was removed at the ankle. And as you know, his hands, of course, were also removed at the wrist. Lisa had both of her arms removed from her torso at the shoulder. Both of her legs were cut off below the knee. Her right hand was severed from her arm, and the killer cut off her head. After the limbs of these people were removed, the killer placed them separately into two 45-gallon blue Sterlite containers. You will hear testimony and see evidence of where that took place. And you will learn that in the master bedroom of their home, plastic sheeting was placed on the floor, and these blue plastic bins were placed on the sheeting. The killer put Lisa's body parts in one, and he put Joel Sr.'s in the other. Ladies and gentlemen, we believe that at the end of our proof, at the conclusion of everything, turn it off, you will find Joel Michael Guy Jr. guilty of every count of this indictment, because we will have proven it to you beyond a reasonable doubt. Thank you very much for your attention.
First, just wanted to introduce myself. Mr. Stevens did all the work in the jury selection. I am John Holstead. This is Mark Stevens, and we are representing today Mr. Guy. I want to start out by saying thank you for being here. Our criminal justice system is one of probably the best one in the world. And what makes it so great is that we have citizens who are willing to come to court, especially during a pandemic, during a time like this, willing to come to court, spend a week listening to the proof and making a decision. And another strong part of our constitutional criminal process is that that decision has to be made beyond a reasonable doubt. And that reasonable doubt can come from witnesses, it can come from physical evidence, it can come from cross-examination. And we just ask you and know that you will listen to everything very closely, listening for the reasonable doubt and making your decision at the end of the case. Again, I want to thank you for being here. This is a difficult time to try a case, difficult time to do anything, and we really need you, and you've come forward, and we really appreciate that. Thank you.
Would you state your name for the record, please?
Robin White.
Are you related to Joel Guy Sr.?
Yes, he's my brother.
And is the defendant your nephew?
Yes.
And did you know Lisa Guy also?
Yes, she was like my sister.
All right. I want to direct your attention to the time period around Thanksgiving, just before Thanksgiving of 2016, and ask you if your brother made any statements to you about his future plans regarding the support of his son, Joel Michael.
Yes. My brother had stated to me that he was retiring and moving up, and he had cut his son off from any money, anything. He was tired of keeping him up.
State your name for the record, please.
Angela Crane.
You're going to have to speak up into the microphone.
Sorry, Angela Crane.
Okay, can you pull the microphone close to your... And are you Joel Guy Sr.'s daughter?
Yes.
And you're the defendant's half-sister?
Yes.
And did you have any conversations in shortly before Thanksgiving holiday, shortly before their deaths, about your father's intention to stop providing support for your brother?
Yes.
And what did he say?
He said that Joe Michael was going to be cut off and going to have to stand on his own 2 feet.
Okay. Did you have any conversations with Lisa Guy about this?
Yes.
And what were those? What did she say to you?
She agreed. It was all in the same conversation with Dad and Lisa.
State your name for the record.
Renee Charles.
Are you Joel Guy Sr.'s sister?
Yes, ma'am.
And shortly before his death, did he make any statements to you about his intention to stop, for him and his wife to stop supporting your nephew, the defendant?
Yes, the week before.
Okay. And can you tell the judge what he said?
He said that Joe Michael was coming in Christmas because they wasn't going to do anything for Thanksgiving. He wasn't coming in for Thanksgiving. And they were going to talk to him then about him having to get a job and pay the bills and stuff down there because they were retiring and moving to Scornsville and they wasn't going to have any income.
Was Lisa there when that happened?
Yes.
Okay. Did she make any statements to you about it?
She said she was behind Mike.
Okay.
They were going to tell him.
Thank you. State your name for the record, please.
Michelle Tyler.
And I'm sorry I've been calling you Dennison, but that's... are you Joel Sr.'s daughter
Yes, ma'am.
and the defendant's half-sister?
Yes, ma'am.
In the time shortly before their deaths in October, November of 2016, did your father make any statements to you about his intention for him and Lisa to stop providing financial support for the defendant?
Yes, ma'am.
Did Lisa make statements like this?
On October the 28th, my youngest birthday, Lisa and Dad did. On Thanksgiving, Dad did.
Okay, and let's talk about the October statement first. Tell us what Lisa said.
They had both said, but Lisa said that Joel Michael was going to have to find a job because they only had a certain amount of money. The retirement they had taken out his pension, and I'm not sure if that's the name of it, but they only had a certain amount to live on, and they would not be able to afford Joel Michael or paying for his apartment.
Okay.
Things like that.
And on Thanksgiving, what did your dad say to you?
You could, there was a little bit of tension, and so when everyone was inside and it was just,
I'm sorry? I'm sorry.
It was just me and Dad and myself. That was bad grammar. It was just me and Dad. We were out on the porch, and he said that Lisa hadn't told Joel Michael, and that you could feel like that was what was causing the little bit of tension inside the house. That you could feel the tension. It was a little bit.
Did he say anything specifically about them withdrawing financial support from your brother?
That's what he said. He had told Joel Michael about that they had told Joel Michael about him having to get a job or being cut off, but he didn't. I can't remember his correct verbiage, but it wasn't cut off. It's that they couldn't afford to
Support him
any longer.
Okay. Thank you. State your name for the record.
Jennifer Whited
Where are you employed?
at Jacobs.
What was your relationship with Lisa Guy?
I was Lisa's supervisor.
When did she tell you she was, when did she turn in her notice or let you know she was going to stop working?
She gave me a written notice on November 21st, 2016,
Okay. When was her last day of work?
December 2nd.
Okay. Did she make any statements to you? Did you all talk about personal matters to some degree?
We did.
Okay. Did she make any statements to you regarding her intention, her future intention to stop supporting her son?
She did make mention of that. She talked about her and her husband both retiring and moving to the family home and not being able to continue to support.
Okay. And do you know when that conversation took place?
Probably October and November. I mean, we talked just about every day. I made a point to go around and talk to all of my employees, and so we talked.
So you were aware she was going to retire before she turned in her written notice?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Can you describe her demeanor? Were you able to observe her demeanor during the time prior to Thanksgiving holiday?
Oh, prior to the Thanksgiving holiday, yep. She was excited, yet a little preoccupied because she had so many things changing in her life. But she seemed to be very excited.
Were you aware that she had sold her house?
Yes,
And did you know about her plans for Thanksgiving?
I did.
What did she tell you?
She was excited to know that her entire family, her kids, were coming to spend the holiday with her and Joel Sr.
And did you talk to her at all on the Thanksgiving holiday weekend?
I did not talk to her during the Thanksgiving weekend.
I want to direct your attention to Monday, November the 28th, and ask you what happened that day.
Well, Lisa, her work schedule started at 7 a.m., and I noticed at about 7:15 that she was not in the office. And I normally gave my employees about 15 minutes to get there, and, more out of being concerned that they were okay, I would start calling. So 7:15 came, and she wasn't there. Nobody in our group had heard from her, so I began texting her. and she didn't text back. And I thought that was highly unusual. A lot of thoughts went through my mind, hoping that she was okay, hoping that, this was her last week. She was retiring, that she had blown us off. But I knew that wasn't right. So I continued to text her. I continued to text Joel Sr. I called and never did get an answer.
Would that have been unlike her to not show up for work and not to call?
Absolutely. If she couldn't make it to work, she would have called me immediately.
And do I understand you to say that you also attempted to call her husband?
I did.
All right. And how many times would you say you called or texted?
I lost track of how many times, but I kept doing it thinking this time they're going to answer. I would say at least 20, at least.
And then what did you decide to do?
I wanted to call the police to have a welfare check done. So I called the police.
Yes, I have an employee that has not reported for work today, and highly unlike her. I've tried calling her home number, I've tried calling cell phone, and can't get a hold of her. What can we do about that? Can somebody go by and check on them? Yeah, do you know her address?
I had realized that nobody had called me, still could not get a hold of Lisa or Joel, so I called back to see what they had found with the welfare check. And I was told that everything seemed to be fine, that nothing looked out of the place, and so they didn't do anything further. I asked them to please go back because I knew that something was not right. She had plans with other co-workers that day, and that she would not have canceled or just blown them off. She would have at least called. So I asked them to go back.
So the last time you communicated with your brother was on Friday, November the 25th. Is
Yes.
that right? And you did not receive a response from him on the 26th and 27th.
No.
Thank you.
The Thanksgiving was different. The Thanksgiving was completely different. The moment that I arrived, Joel Michael Jr. was talking to us, and he had never. I'm not sure Joel Michael Jr. knew my kids' names, and so for him to talk to them was odd. And so he was talking to my kids, and he was bringing them upstairs. Lisa had kept every single thing that this kid had. He wasn't a kid at that point, but his entire everything, Beanie Babies that he had collected, things that he had put on the shelf like eggs, science stuff, and she memorialized. It's not a word. Memorialized. I'm not going to know the word right now. Memorialized. No.
Memorialize.
Yes, that word. His entire life in boxes upstairs, and so they were bringing those boxes down, but it wasn't Lisa giving that away. Lisa didn't want to give it away. It was Joel Michael Jr. giving it to my boys, which was still odd. It was every time I would go upstairs, it's like he would be right behind me, which is also.
When you say he, who do you mean?
I'm so sorry. Joel Michael Jr. would be right behind me, like in my, like right behind me, because I remember doing this. Like, why is he right behind me?
Okay. And did you find that odd at the time?
I did, because for 27 years, or however old he was, he stayed in his bedroom. He was never smiling, saying, "Let me give you something," or right behind me, ever.
When was the last time you spoke to your father?
It would have been Thanksgiving night, I think.
Tell us your name, sir,
Stephen Ballard,
and by whom are you employed?
Knox County Sheriff's Office.
In what capacity?
I work in the Major Crimes Unit. Sergeant Gresham was on the front porch, and he had pointed out inside the residence some groceries you could see. If you put your face up to the actual window, you could see groceries sitting inside in the foyer. At some point, the garage door opens, and we enter the residence. So the garage door comes up. Detective McCord is in front of me. I'm behind Detective McCord. The other two officers are behind me. As we enter the garage, you can feel an intense heat coming out of the garage area. We're trying to achieve to see if Mr. and Mrs. Guy are okay due to the fact they didn't come to the door. You've got groceries sitting in the floor, and the back door knob's obviously missing at that point.
And I want to ask you, sir, are you equipped with a body camera?
Yes, sir.
Hello, Sheriff's Office! I hear a dog was howling. Knox County Sheriff's Office! Damn hammer. Police! Police Department, Sheriff's Office! Knox County Sheriff's Office! Sheriff's Office!
Yes, sir.
I got the guns down here. Yeah, yes, sir. Knox County Sheriff's Office! Yeah, I'm on post. Knox County Sheriff's Office! We're here to check your welfare! Knox County Sheriff's Office! I've got one, probably one down here too, Jim. I'm going right, bench.
And that's where I noticed the hands at the end of the hallway.
This room's clear. Hold up. You good, Jeremy? Back out. We got sir. Go. Come on, car. Got you. Clear. More special dog in. Knives. Yeah, I think so. That's what I see. That's what it looks like. This is fucking hand. Get out now. We got cleared in. There's blood all over it though. You want to? Can't back out. Everybody back out. Please start. A lot of. What you got here? Everything else ready. You don't want to. Everything else ready. I don't need to blow up. I'll get all that. Back out. That's the garage, same way we came in, don't touch nothing.
Whenever you're ready, thank you.
What's your name, man?
My name is Officer Sandy Campbell,
By whom you employed?
Knox County Sheriff's Office.
In what capacity?
I'm currently assigned to the Forensic Services Unit, the eat-in kitchen area. So table in the eat-in kitchen. random items in the kitchen floor. And then this is the kitchen proper. So it's important to note here that the stovetop is on in this large stock pot.
At this point, do you have any knowledge of anything being inside the stock pot?
No. So this is continuing kind of to the other side of the kitchen counter. And then on into the formal dining room area of the residence. So this is, I'm stepping into the foyer of the residence. This is the front door, and it faces the street. And here I'm noting that the heating unit for the house, for the downstairs of the house, is set to 90 degrees, and it was very, very warm in there. And that's the front door and some miscellaneous groceries that are sitting in the floor.
Let me ask you whether or not there was perishables in those groceries.
There were.
Heating device is activated.
I don't believe this one was on. So there's some reddish brown staining right here, and we refer to things that we believe to be blood as reddish brown staining in forensics before they're tested and confirmed by a lab to be blood. So if you hear us refer to RBS or reddish brown staining, that's what that is. So here's more RBS down the side of the wall, and here at this gate, and on the banister as well. So this is just the landing at the top of the stairs, just kind of a small, almost foyer type area. And I know we had to turn the volume of the video down so that you could hear me speak while I describe it, but the sound in the video changes at this point. There's a loud noise in here because there's a heater on and blowing within the room. Yes. You can see the bag moving right there in the breeze being put off from the heater. It was turned on I think at the highest setting it could go. So this is the heater that was on. Yes, it is set to the number 3 setting, which is presumably the highest fan setting on it, like a fan. And this is going into the master bathroom. So what you're seeing here is plastic sheeting that's on the ground in 2 large Rubbermaid type tubs. And this is a shower with a hose attached to the top attachment. The shower head has been removed and a hose has been put there instead, like a garden hose type of thing. It was liquid with pieces of human body in it, in each of them. Both tubs had body parts in them and they were kind of bulging on the sides. So this is a set of like dishwashing gloves that are turned inside out on the counter there. This is the rest of the hose. This is back through the master bedroom. This is just the closet in the master, one of the closets in the master bedroom. Now we're walking back into the upstairs foyer. And we're going to the guest bedroom. There's more reddish brown staining in the floor. A suitcase here. These are tops to blue Rubbermaid containers that were similar, if not the same ones, for the ones in the master bath. So these are the lids. And there's a bunch of textbooks here and some medication. And there's a bathroom on the right, a laundry room on the left, and straight ahead is kind of a bonus exercise room kind of thing. It's over the garage of the residence. So this is the hall bathroom. And this is back to the room above the garage. Looks like it's set up as an exercise room / possible guest room. It's a pile of clothes with staining and a couple of knives. This is a large amount of reddish brown staining, and right back here at where this overturned Bowflex is. Wait till we get back to it. Right here was a set of what appeared to be male human hands that were severed from any other part of. They were just the hands. So more reddish brown staining on the door of this closet in this room. So this is just a closer up picture of the same fragment. Again. 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 So this is back at the table. So, again, B is the 2 wallets and the set of keys.
And did you have a chance to document whose driver's license was in the red wallet?
The red wallet driver's license is Lisa Guy. So item C, we use the tools. So the vice grips here and the hammer are marker C. So this is a bag of trash and some towels And like, I don't remember exactly how we broke it up. I'm not sure if you guys are going to get a list of the evidence, but bleach sprayer, bag of trash, towels, some rolls of trash bags, which is what appears to be a doorknob and a realtor's lock in some sort of fluid. We're not sure exactly at this point what it is. So item W there that's marked as W is part of a doorknob and some, like, the interior workings of the doorknob and a screwdriver. So going into the foyer, we marked the groceries that had been brought in. It was just a large amount, so we were going to count multiple items under each evidence placard. So this is back towards at the top of the stairs. So the upstairs evidence placards have an arrow pointing up to show that is representing it's the upstairs of the house. So we've started over with the alphabet, but now there's a arrow indicating that it's the upstairs.
And this group of placards, A, B, C, D, and E,
Yes.
what is that?
This is all the stuff that was kind of at the top of the stairs in the kind of foyer area. So A, I believe we broke down into, it was 2 black Nike tennis shoes with some staining, and that cast iron. We also considered item A to be that pile of clothing there that all had been cut.
B?
Let's see. B is an empty bottle of crystal drain opener that says lye 100%. 1 empty number 2 sewer line cleaner. It was a 6 pounds, 8 ounce container of it.
And evidence marker C?
C is a stainless steel kitchen knife, so you can't really see it very well in this picture, but there's another picture of it in a moment.
And evidence marker D?
D is more empty containers of this 6 pound, 8 ounce number 2 sewer line cleaner.
Evidence marker N?
N is 7 Thai brand Beanie Babies and 1 Clifford stuffed dog.
Evidence marker O?
O is 1 Eastwig 3 pound hammer, a flashlight, a Home Depot bag, a Baco work light, clear packaging, and 2 glass dropper bottles.
Evidence marker P?
P is a Defiant heavy-duty timer, GE light bulbs, Zep empty sprayer bottle, and 1 Walmart bag. And there's also a Breville blender base.
Evidence marker S?
S is a sprayer handle, a bristled brush head, torn hose packaging, 1 plastic washer, and 3 pieces of white packaging straps. And it's also 1 green hose.
Okay. Is that better depicted in this picture?
Yes.
Evidence marker U?
U is those gloves. They're like the kitchen dishwashing gloves, the kind of thick ones. Double G is 1 plastic Walmart bag with red skin potato salad and some Bactrin zinc ointment, 1 sock containing 1 receipt, 1 $5 bill, 1 $1 bill, 3 quarters, 4 pennies, 1 cardboard center first aid tape, a first aid tape, and a round piece of paper. There's more to double Q, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Jeans with a belt that have been cut, 1 black knee brace, 1 Hanes underwear, 2 socks, and 1 handkerchief. And also in double Q is 1 brown cut t-shirt, 1 camouflage cut hoodie, and 1 Tennessee sweatshirt that's also been cut. So this is back in the guest bedroom. This is one of those items that did not get initially marked as evidence. So we didn't have a placard in the beginning of the pictures. And this is the suitcase that was in the floor in the guest bedroom. right in front of the bookcase. You'll remember from the video it was open. So this is that suitcase.
What are we looking at?
This is a Post-it note that was in one of the zippered compartments of the suitcase.
What are we looking at, man?
This is a handwritten Post-it note that says Dan Bedouin's Ace Hardware at 4767 Highway 1, Napoleon, Louisiana, 70390. It says Roto 6.5 pound sewer line cleaner, and then it says $19.99. So this is the rest of the suitcase back open.
And the underwear depicted in this picture, are those consistent with?
Yes, another set of the Banana Republic underwear.
And just to clarify, the underwear that are located in the guest bathroom as well as in the laundry room?
Correct.
What are we looking at?
This is a knife sheath, and the sheath itself is stamped with USMC. So this is a pair of women's jeans, and they're cut from the top all the way to the bottom on the back aspect of the jeans. This is a pair of women's underwear that also from the back aspect has been cut. This is a woman's tank top that has been also cut and has multiple cuts all within the back aspect. So this is the rear aspect of the sweater, and what I'm trying to do here is kind of piece it together the best that I can to show that it has not only been cut, but then also has like holes in it as well. So this is a pair of men's jeans, and I'm not sure if you can see, like right in here and right in here and also right in here are places where where there's cuts on them.
Could you state your name for the record, please?
Officer Rachel Sandlin.
In November of 2016, were you working for the Sheriff's Office?
Yes, I was.
And were you assigned to the forensics unit?
Yes, I was. A notebook with a pen.
All right. Going to go to 572. Can you describe what this photograph
This would be that
depicts?
black. Excuse me. This would be that black notebook from the large pocket of the backpack laid out. Just an open view of it and what appears to be the first item of content. Just a syllabus appears for a class, Madness in Medicine.
580.
A content page of the notebook from the backpack.
And you've got a screen. Would you read from your screen, please? What is depicted on this page of the photograph you took?
Yes. Get killing knives, quick, multiple. Get
Is that
carving.
quick, or is that
Quick.
QUI? Is that a C or is it an E?
Quiet. Yes, it could be. Yes. I'm sorry. It appears to be an ET. Yes. Multiple. Get carving knives to make small pieces. Get sledgehammer. Crush bones. Bring blender and food grinder. Grind meat.
Keep going.
Get bleach. Denature proteins. Get plastic bin for denaturation process.
Keep going.
Does not matter where they're killed. Just get rid of bloody spots to prevent evidence of time of death, not the mattress or the couches. Get rid of bodies inside house. There and my DNA already there. And then there's a part that's scratched out. Open up doggy door to provide entryway.
Can you make out the,
It appears he needs to be, and I can't make out that word, not intruder.
next line?
Flush chunks down toilet, not garbage disposal. Get plastic sheeting for disposal process. And then the part that's crossed out, get hollow point bullets just in case. Will be seen buying bullets, just use computer room gun. Check to make sure there are bullets. Last resort. He's not alive to claim her half of the insurance. Money, and then an arrow, all mine, 500,000. Flood the house. Covers forensic evidence. Turn heater up as high as it goes. Speeds decomposition. Bleach reacts with luminol just like blood. Douse area with bleach. Big sprayer. Lie. Trash compactor. Body gives time of death. And an arrow, alibi. Don't have to get rid of body if there is no forensic evidence on the body. His fingerprints and DNA.
Okay. Next photograph would be 581, Exhibit 581. And if we could enlarge that and just read from the top, please.
Yes. Minimize things I touch throughout visit. Wear gloves and socks to prevent fingerprints and footprints. Drop something down the garbage disposal to break it. Get him on the ground fixing it. Kill him with the knife. Clean up mess from him before she gets home. Kill her with knife. There's a part that's crossed out. Kill dog after.
What's
And
written
then
above that?
leave alive. Can't read. Are you able to zoom in there?
Okay. And the,
It appears to be fingerprints.
okay.
And then take dog with you. I can't read the first word. Him with him is in parentheses.
Okay. The next line.
Place her in shower, and then with dog appears to be crossed out. Turn on hot water and point at her to get rid of forensics. Remove her clothes and take them with me for disposal. Place him in plastic bin and use it to get him into the upstairs bathroom. Cut off his arm and plant his flesh under her fingernails. Place her hand with his DNA so that his DNA is not washed away by the shower. Use sodium hydroxide to destroy his soft tissue and soften bones for transport. Baste once every hour to accelerate. Flush sodium hydroxide down the toilet. Wash out bin with handheld shower head and then direct handheld into toilet to flush everything out of the pipes and into the public waterway. Douse killing rooms, kitchen with bleach. Place hair curler with flammable paper and flammable containers of gasoline in 4 locations. His killing room, her killing room, his bathroom, her bathroom. Wipe down areas near killing rooms and bathrooms. Turn heaters up to 90 degrees to melt fingerprints and dry everything. Set her phone to send me a text message late Sunday to prove that I was in BR and she was alive, in quotation marks. Leave, and I can't read the word that's marked out, through front door and wipe down doorknobs. Timer for flammables set for Friday at 10 a.m. Sunlight masks fire, but not smoke. Everyone at work, so they can't report it.
I'm going to show you photograph 582 and ask you to, next one, you could enlarge that, just read what is depicted in this photograph.
Ultraviolet light shows fingerprints. Check mail before leaving. To get rid of blood, use peroxide. And there's an arrow stating hemoglobin pointed at peroxide and bleach, and then an arrow DNA pointing at bleach.
Okay. And photograph 583.
It appears to be titled Destruction of Bodies, and then composition of body, 20% fat, 20% protein, 55% water, and 5% other compounds.
Okay. Could I have just a second, Judge?
Thank you.
Could you turn the lights up?
It appears to be titled Assets, her assets, her life insurance, $500,000, possibly more with double indemnity. With him missing / dead, I get the whole thing. All her other assets are joint. Go to him if missing, unknown if he is dead. His assets includes all joint property if missing. When he gets all joint property, also gets joint debt. Knoxville house, homeowner's insurance, possibly but probably worthless after fire. Owe $100,000. The Sir Gowensville house, appraised at $400,000 plus, worthless with Renee on property. Her car, his SUV, and that seems to be bracketed, not paid for. His boat, his old truck, and that seems to be bracketed with paid for. His 401k, $80,000, possibly less after. Zoom in on that word.
Can you zoom in? Could it be taxes?
It very well could be, yes.
Okay. And the next line?
He could possibly have savings and or investment accounts.
Okay.
He's going through the pharmacy, the sections labeled pharmacy, pain, and nicotine section for their camera purposes, and he's in the first aid section. And yes.
Based on your review of the receipt of the items that he purchased, consistent with items that were found in the upstairs guest bathroom?
They are, sir.
Sure. This is a self-checkout at a Walmart store, specifically self-checkout number 47, dated November 21st, 2016 at 3:25 p.m.
Is it a product or do you sell totes at Walmart?
We do. And that is actually what he is purchasing. It appears to be a blue Sterilite type tote.
The capture is in the top right corner. It says vehicle spotted, and it's going to be for November 29th, 2016 at 7:34 a.m. Central Time.
And the nearest address, sir?
I-59, and I cannot actually see that running. In Pachuta. Yes.
And what state?
Missouri, I believe? Mississippi.
Mississippi?
Yes, sorry.
Okay. The next exhibit. What time and what date is the license plate of Joel Michael Guy Jr.'s vehicle spotted?
That is the same, it's 11/29/16 at 7:04 a.m. Central Time, and the closest location is going to be in Meridian, Mississippi. It's on a highway, 106, Highway 11, and 80.
And the next time the vehicle registered to Joe Michael Guy Jr. was spotted?
11/28/16 at 1:05:31 a.m. Central Time.
And what's the closest?
Heidelberg, Mississippi. Nearest intersection is I-59 County Road 333.
Okay. And next time that and these are in no particular order, the next time that the vehicle registered to Joe Michael Guy Jr. is spotted?
11/28/16 at 12:31:06 a.m. In Meridian, Mississippi. Nearest intersection is I-20 and U.S. Highway 11.
And the next is the time where a vehicle registered to Joe Michael Guy Jr. is spotted?
It's 11/23/2016 at 1:29:17 p.m. Central Time in Moselle, Mississippi, on I-59.
State your name for the record, please.
Michael McCracken,
Mr. McCracken, where do you live?
North Bethesda, Maryland.
And did you at one time live in Baton Rouge, Louisiana?
Yes.
When did you live?
Sorry, if you could speak up a little bit. Thank
Sorry.
you.
When did you live there?
When I was in college, so 2006 through 2015.
Did you know the defendant, Joel Michael Guy?
Yes.
How did you know him?
We went to high school together and college together, and we were roommates off and on through that time.
All right.
2. Inmate ID number 117861229.
On that basis, I think you should probably just sort of consider me dead and move on with your life. You have been my best friend for my entire adult life. I don't know that would ever have changed regardless of what you did. Assuming it wasn't news.
1 minute remaining.
Oh, shit. Can you write more time? I mean, I'm not fully surprised. I don't know. I don't know what to say. All of that aside, I am angry and lost and confused and disappointed and upset and mourning you like your day, even though I'm talking to you on the phone and I don't. It's taking everything I have to process and maintain my sanity. I mean, that is the biggest thing here is that I think of you all the time. You were the only good thing in my life. All the crap in the apartment. You're the only thing on this?
Same conversation.
Okay. Yeah, God. Her date went through August. So it's not like the manager's going to be throwing my shit out on the street anytime soon. Yeah. How did you manage that? That's a lot of money. Yeah. One of the last things I did was pay that. So. Okay.
Prior to the news article that I was told about, no.
Okay, so he had never told you in all the years that you knew each other that he had 3 sisters.
Correct.
You describe the contents of that report.
This report, I analyzed a notebook from a backpack.
All right, and just tell the jury what you did with respect to that.
On the notebook from the backpack, I swabbed the entire outside of the notebook, and then I cut those swabs for DNA. The DNA profile obtained is consistent with a mixture from at least 2 individuals, where at least one is male. The major contributor profile is consistent with 8N, Joel Guy Jr. Exhibits 8B, Oral-B toothbrush from Lisa Guy, and 8A, Joel Guy Sr. are excluded as contributors to this profile.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Would you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Sure. My name is Dr. Amy Hawes, Hawes.
And where are you employed?
I'm currently employed as the Deputy State Medical Examiner for the Tennessee Office of the State Chief Medical Examiner. There were many blood spots in different areas throughout the home, and there were also multiple dismembered body parts in various rooms throughout the home. That's was a very complex process, and the reason why it was complex is because the remains were not in such a state that we were able to just place the remains in one body bag like we would do if it was an intact deceased person. So not only were the remains in multiple pieces, but there were 2 large bins, plastic bins, like storage bins, that were in the upstairs master bath that were filled with some type of chemical. And it was clear from looking at the body. We will then document our findings both in written form and with photographs, and sometimes we will do ancillary studies or extra studies like we did in this case, including taking x-rays. I began processing the remains of Mrs. Guy initially, but in reality, the examination of both remains were happening simultaneously. There's more than one examination at the Forensic Center, so they were both being done at the same time. Again, the autopsy is an examination of the outside of the inside of the body. And the first thing to note with Mr. Guy is his remains had been dismembered, and there was some area of defect of the bone of the forehead. The bone in that area was in such poor condition that it was impossible to tell whether that was from the chemicals in which the skull had been or whether it was from blunt trauma. There was skin remaining primarily on the back of Mr. Guy, approximately from his lower neck around his buttocks, and the remainder of the skin was gone. The remainder of the skin had been dissolved by chemicals, and with the skin being gone, it basically exposed bare muscle and some of the subcutaneous tissue. So the remains were in a very complex and difficult state to examine and to describe.
Okay. So did you observe any wounds?
I did.
To his body parts, and could you
Yes.
describe those?
So, in documenting the wounds, I have to say that I have to give a number of wounds as an at least, because there was so much loss of tissue. So, even some of the arms, Mr. Guy's arms were down to bone, and some of the bone had begun to dissolve. There could have been more wounds. So the wounds that I could see and document primarily were on Mr. Guy's back, where the skin still was relatively intact. And on the skin of his back, he had what I identified as 34 sharp force injuries. And sharp force injuries are either stabs or cuts. These sharp force injuries, again, extended from up near about the area of his shoulder down to his buttocks. They were on both sides. The wounds ranged from about 1 inch in length to about 7 inches in length, and the maximum depth was about 6 inches. Associated with these stab wounds, I identified injuries to the liver, lungs, and kidneys, and ribs.
Or did you say 34? Or?
I did 34, but he also had some on his abdomen as well that I hadn't described yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these are primarily on the back side of him?
Yes.
Okay. And is this consistent with him being attacked from behind or stabbed from behind, obviously?
Yes.
Okay. And can you just discuss the nature of the wounds? How, did they appear to be in a pattern? Did it appear to be random?
I would not describe them as being in a pattern. Again, they were on both sides of his back and extended a length from where his shoulders are to fairly close down to the level of his hips. So it wasn't any distinct pattern that I could discern. So I would consider them random.
Okay. And you indicated that there were also sharp force injuries to his abdominal section?
Correct.
And
yeah.
Describe those.
Yeah, so there were 5 stab wounds on the left side of his abdomen. He also had a large area on the right side of his abdomen where a portion of the abdominal wall was missing and through which some of the bowels protruded. And again, it was impossible for me to tell whether this was a very large sharp force injury, in other words, a large cut, or whether it was part of the dismemberment process. But I could distinctly see 5 stab wounds on the left side of his abdomen. And again, those were not stab wounds that were identified on the skin because the skin on the front of his body was completely gone. These were stab wounds that were identified once his body wall was reflected back for me to examine his internal organs.
Okay. And did you observe any evidence of injury to him internally as a result of the sharp force injuries?
Yes. Again, he had injuries to his liver, both lungs, both kidneys. He had injuries to multiple ribs. I think Dr. Marks, who is the forensic anthropologist, will describe those further, but he had 6 cuts on the, or 6 ribs were cut on the left, 6 ribs were cut on the right. And from what Dr. Marks described in his report, the location of those roughly approximates the stab wounds that I identified on his back.
Okay. And would you describe the sharp force injuries as occurring before death?
Yes, the 34 wounds on his back were consistent with being inflicted while he was still alive. He had multiple what we call linear cutting wounds or linear incised wounds that I would describe as classic defensive injuries. And they're described as classic defensive injuries because they're on the palms of the hands and the palm side of the fingers that will be consistent with someone putting their hands out either in a defensive motion or potentially grabbing a sharp edge weapon as a way to defend themselves. Yeah, so this is a stab wound that has a what we call a tail. So this isn't an exact pointer, but at this end, there is a little tail or a little twist on it. And so that's what happens when the knife is inserted and either the knife is turned or Mr. Guy turned. It just indicates that there was a change in direction between when the knife was placed in and when it was pulled out. It just indicates there's some movement of the knife or movement of the victim as he's being stabbed.
So you don't know cause of death?
So the cause of death of Mr. Joel Guy Sr. is multiple sharp force injuries. So, like Mr. Guy, Mrs. Guy was also dismembered. There was some differences in the degree to which she was dismembered and the way she was dismembered. Her head was completely severed from her body. Her arms were disarticulated at the shoulders, and her legs were disarticulated at the knees. So, in comparison to Mr. Guy, who had his legs disarticulated at the hips, Mrs. Guy's legs were at the knees. So, her thighs were still intact. Her thighs were still attached onto her body, but her head was completely severed and her arms were completely severed. Much like Mr. Guy, the skin of her back was still relatively well preserved compared to her front, where there was almost no skin left. Mrs. Guy's head was found in a large pot in liquid in the kitchen. The liquid in the pot had a slightly different character to it than the liquid in the plastic tubs. It didn't have the strong chemical odor. It had a slight odor of decomposition, but it did not have the chemical odor like the bins upstairs did. The skin looked like it had heat artifact or what we call thermal artifact as opposed to a chemical artifact. The hair was still there as well. And so those were the primary differences. Miss Guy had multiple sharp force injuries on her back. She had at least 25, and again, I'm having to do a little bit of a hedge because of the degree to which the remains were altered. Again, the wounds were on both sides of her back. They were approximately 6 to 7 inches deep. They included injuries to the heart, so the right ventricle or the right side of her heart, the aorta in her abdomen, which is the major blood vessel that leaves the heart and feeds the lower portion of the body. Both lungs were injured, the left kidney, the liver, and her third thoracic vertebra, so a bone in the spine also appeared to be injured. She also had 5 stab wounds that were relatively superficial on her buttock as well.
Would you describe these wounds as before death, perimortem?
For the ones that I could tell, yes.
How long does it take to die from sharp force injuries, such as these?
The answer is it depends. So these stab wounds cause death by a couple of different mechanisms. Stab wounds that injure the lung, they interfere with breathing because if you puncture the wall surrounding the lung can't expand and you can't breathe. They would also expect it to be blood loss from these wounds as well. Neither blood loss nor air around the lung, it's called a pneumothorax, neither of those things would cause instantaneous death. So I would estimate anywhere from a few seconds to a few minutes. It's just impossible for me to say without knowing in which order the wounds were inflicted.
Inflicted with any type of knife? I mean, do you have an opinion?
Oh, yes, definitely. I'm not sure what other sharp force injuries, those types of injuries I've seen before have always been associated with it. Research that anthropologists have done, graduate students, publications have used implements like that to produce wounds in bone that are synonymous with what I saw.
Can you disarticulate limbs with a knife?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I mean, if you have the patience and the perseverance, I mean, it takes time to cut through the ligaments, the muscles, the joint capsules. I mean, it's a lot of work to disarticulate a body at the joint surfaces. Yeah, but it could be done with a knife. Degree of severity from very fine incised lines to chips and wedges and complete severing, or complete perforation. The right scapula had 9 wounds that were associated with disarticulation. They are at the joint region. The left scapula had 1 that had that damage to it. Okay, well, this is the same format that I used in the other report, again showing the ribs. And the ribs are not completely cleaned, all the way down to the bone surfaces, particularly where they articulate with the vertebra. Special care had to be taken not to obliterate anything, so that's why they can kind of look a little fuzzy. But in the same respect, what we have are these red dots that are associated with cut marks on the ribs or areas where that took place. So, and I might be missing some because they're kind of hard to see at places. Column against the skull. What this image over here represents is the part of the second cervical vertebra, way up high in the neck, that sticks out. So this would be the back part, and this would be more of where the spinal cord is, and what it shows is sharp force trauma. The white circles demonstrate 2 areas of sharp force trauma or slicing.
As you know, there's a great deal of proof in this case, a lot of evidence to consider. The best way for me to stay organized is to present this in a PowerPoint. So chronologically, what we have here, ladies and gentlemen, is Thanksgiving weekend, 2016. We know, based on text messages between Joel and his mother, that he is leaving Baton Rouge on the 23rd of November 2016. He is heading to the parents' address on 11434 Golden View Avenue here in Knox County. We know, based on the testimony of Ms. Tyler, Michelle Tyler, the sister of Joel Michael Guy Jr., that the family gathered on Thanksgiving the 24th. We further heard testimony from Joel Guy Sr.'s sister that on the 25th, Joel Guy Jr. is present in Burgoynesville with his father, Joel Guy Sr., one day after Thanksgiving to assist him in bringing a boat to the property. We know, based on the evidence, that the homicides occurred between the hours of 12:30 and roughly 3 p.m. on November 26th, 2016. And all this time, ladies and gentlemen, there's a plan in place. Joel Guy took care to plan these homicides accordingly. He went into great detail in how he wrote it out. So his plan, as you'll see and as the proof is demonstrated, was to kill his father first, wait until his mother was at Walmart, wait for a window of time where he could lure her upstairs and kill her as well. He then planned to manipulate the scene, even up to starting a fire. He had a guide for hot water heaters in his backpack in the guest bedroom that he was staying in. He had a plan to destroy the evidence. If you recall, and you'll see pictures, several areas throughout the residence, there are either a hair dryer or a hair curler next to a heater. What's the motive here? we don't have the burden to prove the motive, but the motive's pretty apparent in this case, and the motive is the money. He wants $500,000 that he is the second in line to get if Lisa Guy untimely dies. So if we look at the timeline of the defendant's travel, we know from the Vigilant Solutions exhibits that were entered in this case that he is seen driving to Knoxville, Mississippi, on November 23rd, 2016 at roughly 1:30. We further saw receipts in his trunk from Lieutenant Scott Henning when he inventoried that trunk that he had stopped in Georgia to go to McDonald's on the 23rd. Again, that would show his route of travel on the 23rd. Next, we know that he leaves Knoxville and is in Meridian, Mississippi at 12:31 on 11/28/2016, that being Monday morning, early Monday morning. He's again spotted continuing south towards Louisiana, Baton Rouge to be specific, in Heidelberg, Mississippi at 1:05 a.m. So when we consider how the defendant, Joel Michael Guy Jr., became a suspect in this case, what the proof has shown is that upon the officer's initial response to the scene, they inventoried a horror scene, as they put it. You saw the proof, you saw the evidence of what they encountered inside that residence. You heard about interviews that Investigator McCord conducted with family members that put him on the path to establish that Joel Michael Guy Jr. was present for Thanksgiving and he was no longer there. We then heard about the receipt, the crucial piece of evidence that led investigators to follow up and to dig deeper into who the suspect was in this case. We saw the video transactions from Walmart identifying Joel Michael Guy Jr. We saw his license plate as he left. That was at roughly 3:35 p.m. on the 26th at Turkey Creek here in Knox County, Tennessee. We learned that his mother was there roughly 3 hours previously, purchasing a long list of groceries that we ultimately found in the foyer area. So Investigator Jeremy McCord, he's with the Knox County Sheriff's Office. He was serving at that time in the Major Crimes Division. He responded first to a welfare check.
Has not reported for work today, and how would I like her? I've tried calling her home number, I've tried calling cell phone, and can't get a hold of her. What can we do about that? Can somebody go by and check on them? Yeah, do you know her address? I do. It is 11434 Golden View Lane.
That is the basis of the response to the residents originally. We heard from Detective Ballard about how he responded, knocked on the door, rang the doorbell, went around back, whistled for a dog, again went to the door with no answer. Investigator McCord then received an additional call with more information about Lisa Guy supposed to be at a retirement party, as this was her last working week before she moved to Burgonsville. Some of the things he considered when he got to the residence. He found it odd that the house was for sale and there was no realtor box in the front door. He took that into consideration. He also took into consideration that both the vehicles that were registered to Lisa and Joel Guy Sr. were at the residence and no one was answering the door. He then moves around to the rear of the residence. He finds at the rear of the residence there's a back door with the doorknob absent, a hole instead. And upon investigating that hole in the door, he describes that he could smell chemicals and he could feel heat emitting from where that doorknob should have been. He further described that upon looking at the front door, the doorknob for the front door matched the deadbolt on the back. We saw that ultimately the investigator and accompanying officers were able to gain access into the garage They were able to open one of the guy's vehicles and hit a garage door opener, which ultimately opened the garage. We heard about what he encountered once he opened that garage. He described that he could still feel heat, he could smell chemicals present in the garage. Ultimately, the officers make a decision based on what they've encountered to make an entry into that residence and conduct a welfare check inside of 11434 Golden View Lane on November the 28th, 2016. And you recall seeing the officers on the body camera with weapons drawn based on what they encountered outside. To make sure everyone is okay, they are processing the kitchen, or not processing, but kind of traversing through the varying rooms of the downstairs. At that point, Investigator McCord, if you recall, he said that nothing was really wrong there. There were some odd things I was considering, but nothing showed any signs of struggle. But it was concerning that there were groceries on the floor, the foyer. It was concerning that there were chemicals right when you came in the door. All that changes when they make entry into that stairwell.
Knox County Sheriff's Office! We're here to check your welfare!
And you recall when Investigator McCord testified about the kind of what he was perceiving at the time and how it made him feel based on what he encountered upon making it to the second floor of the residence at 11434 Golden View Lane. He stated, once we get upstairs, it's like the world does a 180. Everything gets turned upside down. He's initially seeing blood on the way up to the stairs, blood on the doggy gate, and then ultimately a horrific scene, which will later become apparent, the scene where Lisa Guy was executed and subsequently disarticulated. He said he could see straight down the hall and he saw hands not connected to a body. We also heard that from Officer Ballard, who experienced the same thing, as well as the other deputies who responded on November 26th. With regard to finding the physical bodies, in these tubs right before you, ladies and gentlemen, these two tubs, he described that as being gut-wrenching, something he's never experienced before. All the crime scenes that he's responded to, all the homicides that he worked, this one was different. He told us that he will never get those smells out of his head or his dreams. $500,000, ladies and gentlemen, what this case is about in terms of motive. We know that there's a breakdown of beneficiaries where Joel Michael Guy Jr. is the contingent beneficiary, where Joel Sr. is the primary beneficiary on Lisa Guy's life insurance policy. When looking at that first-degree murder in terms of what we have to prove his identity, that Joel Michael Guy, unlawfully killed, and so on and so forth. So with regard to identity, what you've seen, ladies and gentlemen, you've seen Joel Guy's written words. This book is connected to him through certain pieces of material, such as set her phone to send me a text message late Sunday to prove that I was in BR, being Baton Rouge, and she was, quote unquote, alive. We can prove his identity through his own spoken words, ladies and gentlemen. His admission of guilt as it relates to the homicides in this case.
Very, very realistic chance of being happy if I got around to doing that. Pretty much fucked everything up. I don't really have much of a
basically just sort of consider me dead and move on with your life. So I'm not going to try to initiate any more contact with you beyond sort of, practical concerns we discussed earlier. And I may do that with a lawyer because I genuinely do want you to be happy. And that's pretty much the end of my outburst. So there you go.
I don't know what else to say.
I mean, I don't know that there is anything to say. I'm not here. I'm not tell me I'm a fucking idiot. Tell me, why did I do this? Blah, blah, blah. How could you, just have stream of consciousness about anything and everything related or not to anything I just said. I just did word vomit at you just now. So, word vomit at something right.
Tell me I'm an effing idiot. Ask me how I could do this. Blah, blah, blah. Submit to you what you heard there was an admission of guilt by Joel Guy Jr. Next to the bag that had the Walmart receipt and the change from the medical supplies that he bought after he was injured in a struggle with Joel Guy Sr. And where that is, if you'll recall, in the bathroom here, the guest bathroom, there was a bunch of clothing here, a bloody shower curtain down here, various items here in a bag, a trash can here, a knife, a K-bar Marine Corps knife here, and a bunch of evidence that was analyzed through the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation over here. We saw the fingerprint, which was ultimately lifted and conclusively identified as that belonged to Joel Michael Guy Jr., the one on the left being the print from the scene, the one on the right being a standard. And they talked about, the experts, Mr. Finch and Parks, talked about the characteristics that they look for in peaks and arches when examining fingerprints and how they ultimately come to a conclusion that a given fingerprint was provided by a given source. And this fingerprint in the same bathroom is just on the other side of the sink. The Clorox package, that being in the guest bedroom, in the closet area. Again, the print that was lifted, latent print that was lifted off that package. The left here being the print that was lifted, the right being the known standard of Joel Michael Guy Jr.'s print and how they were analyzed, and ultimately they concluded that Joel Michael Guy Jr. was the source of the print. The right middle finger print from the glove box. These are the nitrile gloves, ladies and gentlemen. These are the gloves that were not only downstairs in the kitchen, but also in the guest bedroom and also in the guest bathroom. And again, the same process was utilized in collecting all these prints, and they were ultimately able to determine that Joel Michael Guy Jr. was the source of the fingerprints. The right index finger from the medical tape that he purchased at Walmart after he was in a struggle with Joel Guy Sr. So how do we further prove his identity? We heard a great deal of testimony from Special Agent Kim Lowe at the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. She talked to you about all the pieces of evidence that she examined, multiple pieces of evidence that contained not only Joel Michael Guy Jr.'s DNA, but also the DNA of his parents put together. But most troubling, we learned that the notebook, the book of premeditation here, we learned that the major contributor is consistent with Joel Guy Jr. And we learned, she talked about, even broke it into quadrillions, about the number of being incorrect in the analysis. The knife from the master bedroom sink, where the stew-like remains of Lisa Guy and Joel Guy Sr. were ultimately recovered in these tubs, ladies and gentlemen, before you. the fingernail clippings of Joel Guy Sr. We learned that there was the presence of Joel Guy Jr.'s DNA underneath the fingernail clippings, or on the fingernail clippings of Joel Guy Sr. Again, supporting there was a struggle, an attack. So after identity, I want to talk to you about premeditation and how this case, how the state has proven to you beyond a reasonable doubt that Joel Michael Guy Jr. acted with a great deal of premeditation in these cold, calculated homicides of his mother and father. There's two routes I want to travel with regard to premeditation. The first route is the purchase of supplies used in commission of the murders. Okay? And I want to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, the proof has showed us that this began 19 days before these homicides took place. He was buying things that he was planning to use in the commission of these offenses 19 days beforehand. Another avenue of premeditation is, of course, the notebook. We know that he wrote about the murders, what he was going to do. You've seen the pages, what supplies he needed, what order he needed to do things, what he was going to do with the bodies after they were deceased, what he was going to do with the residents after his plan was carried out. We know he purchased supplies in preparation. We saw multiple videos of him not only in Baton Rouge, but traveling up to 35 miles outside of Baton Rouge to purchase supplies. We heard that Dan Boudreau Ace Hardware is roughly 35 miles from Baton Rouge proper. And he had to find a place that carried muriatic acid in food-grade hydrogen peroxide. Sewer cleaner, number 2. Again, what's this about? This is about a motivation to collect money, because his parents had had enough of supporting him, had never worked a day in his life, and they wanted to retire, and they deserved to retire. And we look at the supply purchases again. We'll start with supplies that were purchased the farthest out in terms of days from when the homicides occurred. 19 days beforehand, this would be November the 7th of 2016. He purchased several supplies at 2 different locations. So again, if you look at the left, Mr. Joel Michael Guy Jr., who Jerry Coleman, task force officer at the Federal Bureau of Investigation, was able to determine that he was on the video on the 7th of November purchasing. If you look to the right, this is the physical evidence that was seized at the crime scene. So we have Mr. Joel Michael Guy on the 7th purchasing muriatic acid. We further have Joel Michael Guy on the 7th purchasing what comes in these tied-off bags because it's so dangerous, to skin contact and its ability to be corrosive to skin, food-grade hydrogen peroxide. If you see here, these are the big bags that are pre-tied. So those are just the purchases in Gonzales, again, which is roughly 35 miles outside of Baton Rouge on the 7th. But that's not it, ladies and gentlemen. The same day, Joel Michael Guy then goes to Lowe's. He purchases an Irwin pipe wrench. And we see at the crime scene in the master bathroom that the shower head has been taken off, that a hose has been applied to assist in his process of disarticulating his parents and ultimately putting them into an acidic-based fluid to dispose of their remains. He's also purchasing Clorox wipes, same wipes that contained his fingerprints, same wipes that are found in the guest bedroom at 11434 Golden View Lane. So let's jump down the road closer to when he commits these murders. He takes a break from 19, and now we're at 8 days. 8 days before the murders. He's thinking about it again. This is getting real. Am I going to do this? He goes to Home Depot, Louisiana, 11/18. And what's he buy at Home Depot? Home Depot brand extension cords, as well as a timer. And we saw what the timers were intended to do in his book of premeditation. They were going to be utilized to create a fire after the bodies had dissolved. He makes another transaction at Home Depot, just minutes apart. He must have forgot the commercial bleach sprayer. And as you see on the right, the crime scene, we have the bleach and the bleach sprayer. The very next day, he's still thinking about it. 7 days before the murders. 1 week before he's set to come into Knoxville to enjoy Thanksgiving with his family. He is at Academy Sports in Baton Rouge. He is purchasing what you can see here, ladies and gentlemen, I submit to you, is the K-bar weapon, the Marine Corps style knife that he used to murder his parents with. Again, when you consider that with the evidence on the crime scene. So 2 days have passed. He's now 5 days before the murders. And what's he doing? He's at Walmart. You saw that video where he struggled to have the machine take his bill. And what's he buying? He's buying at least one of these. The proof is shown in the video showed that he already had one. We saw him take the groceries and put them in the car and take a pre-existing bin, the same size, same color, same style, out and place one of those bins in there and put them both in. He bought his parents' tombs on the 21st. On to the next avenue of premeditation. I told you about the supply purchases, but also the book of premeditation. The same book that has his DNA on it. The same book that he identifies that he will go back to BR so his mom's phone can be a program to set a text so she could be, in quote, alive. And what does this book do when you put it with the crime scene? Essentially, the writings, what they do is they corroborate everything that's out in the crime scene. So everything he set out to do, he did. Get rid of the bodies inside of the house. Well, the proof is shown that he did that, ladies and gentlemen, or at least attempted to. Get carving knives to make small pieces. Get knives because they're quiet. Get multiple of them. Again, we found at least 5 knives scattered around the upstairs of 11434 Golden View Lane here in Knox County. 5 knives that were used in the commission of these brutal murders. Get plastic sheeting for the disposal process. We saw the plastic sheeting in the master bathroom. Investigator McCord sure encountered that plastic sheeting when he made that awful discovery. The remainder of the plastic sheeting being on the guest bed that was neatly made. Get bleach denature proteins. Get plastic bin for denaturation process. Ladies and gentlemen, he had the supplies. We saw him buy the muriatic acid. Turn heat up to 90 to melt fingerprints and dry everything. Now, we saw a lot of crime scene pictures in this case from different crime scene technicians. We also saw video. So upon initial entry, if you recall, the heat upstairs was at 95 degrees. And after initial entry, it starts to cool down a bit. It goes to 93. It goes to 90. We heard about everybody who went in that crime scene. The medical examiner, Investigator McCord, the initial responding officers. We heard from Officer Ballard about his reaction to that heat on his face. the smell of chemicals. Turn heater up as high as it goes to speed decomposition. Okay, well, we know what he wants to decompose. The disarticulated, the brutalized bodies of his parents that are in an acidic-based fluid in the master bathroom. We also see a fan and heater that we heard on the crime scene video was actively working when officers initially entered. Wear gloves and socks to prevent fingerprints and footprints. Well, what do we find in the guest bedroom? We find a bag with Hanes socks. What do we find strewn throughout the residence at 11434 Golden View Lane? Gloves to prevent fingerprints. We've seen the proof is corroborated that Joel Michael Guy Jr., after he killed his parents, based on their clothing with the incisions in the clothing, he then decided that and planned that he was going to remove their clothes and take them away. And he did that by the use of scissors that were located ultimately right next to the pile of blood where he executed his mother. And how's he going to go about disarticulating his parents? At least for his mother, turn on the hot water and point her to get rid of forensics. Remove her clothes and take them with me for disposal. Get a sledgehammer to crush bones. And if you look below the crime scene in the master bedroom floor, with a bunch of other various items that he brought with him through his shopping, is a sledgehammer. We also know that there was a blender in the master bedroom on the floor, a base and the portion of the blender that holds the content. We know that when he was arrested in Louisiana, that in his trunk, not only was there a gas can that exactly matched the other three at the residence, but there was a commercial meat grinder. So he did what he wanted to do. Place hair curler with flammable paper and flammable containers of gasoline in 4 locations. So that tells us that Joel Michael Guy Jr. brought 4 gas cans. And if you recall, ladies and gentlemen, I'm bringing one up to enter it in the evidence. It's full. They're full of gas. And looking into that entry deeper, place hair curler with flammable paper and flammable containers. We have a hair curler plugged in. We have a hair dryer plugged in. Both next to heaters. He wasn't done, ladies and gentlemen. He was not done. He left because his plan was disrupted when Joel Guy Sr. attempted to fight for his life. Timer for flammables set for Friday at 10 a.m. Talks about how sunlight can mask fire, but not smoke. And the fact that everyone will be at work, they won't be able to report it. And we find on the scene, ladies and gentlemen, as well as we see in the video from Home Depot, he's buying a heavy-duty timer. Get rid of the blood in the crime scene. He knows there's going to be blood. He plans to attack his parents with knives. He knows there's going to be blood. Use peroxide and bleach. The peroxide has the ability to work against hemoglobin, a component of human blood, and the bleach has the ability to diminish the presence of DNA. And what do we find on the scene? Hydrogen peroxide. bleach. Plenty of bleach. Bleach reacts with luminol, just like blood. Douse the area with bleach. And how does he plan to do that? With this commercial bleach sprayer that we watched him purchase from Home Depot on the 18th of November 2016, 8 days before he carried out these homicides. And what does he do after this? Bleach by itself isn't going to work. What do we need? What we learned from Investigator Wassman, that a search was conducted on the artifacts of the home computer on the 27th. We submit to you that the proof is shown that Joel Guy Sr. and Lisa Guy were brutally murdered on the 26th. Leaves Joel Guy in the residence on the 27th. We know he leaves the late hours of the 27th into the 28th. There's a search on the 27th at 8:05 a.m. looking for sodium percarbonate, and the investigator told us that that is OxyClean. So, with regard to first-degree premeditated murder, we've showed you, ladies and gentlemen, beyond a reasonable doubt, the identity of the killer, Joel Michael Guy Jr. We have showed you that he acted with premeditation, and we must also establish that he intentionally killed Lisa Guy, his mother, and Joel Guy Sr., his father. So with regard to Joel Guy Sr., we know that he was executed in the exercise room with apparent signs of struggle. Not only is the exercise machine overturned, but there's a futon present inside that room that has been stabbed. The blood patterns on the walls, we heard proof about how they had smears in them. There's clearly a struggle in this room. Again, going down the hallway where Investigator McCord and Ballard were able to see the severed hands in a praying-like position of Joel Guy Sr. So how do we get to that Joel Guy Jr. acted intentionally? What points us there? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we heard from the medical examiner yesterday, and she talked about that she was able to identify at least 42 stab wounds. And there may be more present, but based on the condition of Mr. Guy and the fact that his skin on his front side had essentially dissolved, and he was down to muscle, and portions of his skull had dissolved, she was still able to identify at least 42 stab wounds. And again, when you connect that with the legal definition of acting intentionally, a person acts intentionally when it's their conscious, objective, or desire to cause the death of the alleged victim. Ladies and gentlemen, I submit to you at least 42 stab wounds is acting intentionally. Again, we see that blood. We see signs of a struggle. We know that in the struggle, Joel Guy Sr. obtained several injuries to himself, either by trying to repel an assault or by physically grabbing the blade, knowing that he will be cut to stop an assault. What does the machine tell us? Points to a struggle. What does the couch or futon tell us? There was a struggle. But most damning, what does Joel Guy Jr. tell us when he goes to Walmart? He tells us there was a struggle. And ladies and gentlemen, you have this video for consideration. It's in evidence. I would ask you to look at his left hand and his inability essentially to use it. Same medical supplies that are ultimately found in the guest bathroom upstairs level of 11434 Golden View Lane. There's so much of a struggle that Mr. Guy cannot pull his wallet out. If you see his hands, it's evident there was a struggle. Again, with regard to Joel Guy Sr.'s hands, ladies and gentlemen, again, we heard proof yesterday from Dr. Hawes, who established that these are defensive wounds in nature and that they were either obtained trying to repel an assault or grabbing a blade to stop an assault. But further, what did we learn? We learned that when Joel Guy Jr. was arrested in Louisiana, what the video didn't show us is the actual wounds. We got to look at them. We got to see how serious these wounds were. You saw the instruments of death that were used to murder Joel Guy Sr., used to stab him at least 42 times, used to create a gaping wound on the left side of his body, used to disarticulate him at the shoulders, at the hips, at the hands. And what was Joel's plan? Joel Guy Jr. Kill him with the knife. He did, ladies and gentlemen. Consider the torso, what's left of the remains of Joel Guy Sr. Again, previous to this had been dissolving, essentially, in acidic fluid. Saw some illustrations where the medical examiner was able to kind of explain the disarticulation of Joel Guy Sr. and where it happened, and also use this as a way to explain how those chemicals reacted with his skin and what they did to his body when he was face down in one of these tubs. She explained that his skin dissolved, again, that he was sectioned off of the joint. She explained that he had stab wounds that were at least 6 inches deep. Injuries of his lungs, liver, kidneys. We got to see his clothes. Joel Michael Guy Jr. was nice enough to not cut his dad's off, at least his pants. Saw the signs of stabs, cuts.
Yes, please. Okay, next 5 to 10 if you get a breaking point.
Actually, probably a good time. Yes, sir.
All right, folks, so your lunch is here. It's 12:15. I'm going to go ahead and interrupt General Sanchez. We will continue with his closing arguments when we get back. We're getting... All right, everyone, you may be seated. Does the state waive the call, jury? Defense waive the call? Welcome back, folks. Hope you had a good lunch. We're ready to resume our closing arguments in this case. Just to let you know, I am aware that there is some popping in the speakers. There's a loose connection somewhere. I tried to track it down over lunch and was not able to find that. Hopefully it's not too distracting. If it is, let me know, and we'll try to find another way to present the PowerPoint to you. I do want to ask, too, I forgot to ask yesterday, but has everybody been able to hear clearly, Mr. Sanchez, during closing, everything else? Anybody have any difficulty hearing or seeing or listening? All right, very good. All right, Mr. Sanchez, you may resume your closing argument, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, when we left off, we were talking about the elements of premeditated first-degree murder, that the state has the burden to prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt the essential elements for that offense, being that Joel Michael Guy Jr. unlawfully killed Lisa Guy, his mother, and Joel Guy Sr., and that he did so intentionally, and that he did so with premeditation. We talked about the premeditation in the purchase supplies. We talked about the premeditation in the notebook, the book of premeditation. We also went through the entries and we looked at the intentional acts of Joel Guy Jr. with regard to the unlawful killing of his father. And we left here, ladies and gentlemen, with the shirt that Joel Guy Sr. was wearing that was ultimately removed from him with a pair of scissors, cut off, stab wounds present. Again, this is a man who suffered at least 42 stab wounds, ladies and gentlemen. An intentional killing. And next, I want to focus on the intentional killing of Lisa Guy that occurred in the upstairs landing at 11434 Golden View Lane here in Knox County, Tennessee on November the 26th, 2016. We know Joel Guy Jr. had a plan. He had a plan with regard to what order he was going to execute his parents in. He demonstrated that in his book of premeditation. Clean up the mess from him before she gets home. He's looking for a window when his mother will not be present, when he can take care of his dad and wait for her to get home and take care of her. We know that this guy checked out of Walmart on November the 26th, 2016 at roughly 12:18. She's captured on video surveillance purchasing items that are ultimately found in the foyer and the downstairs of the residence. We know that she makes it out of Walmart at roughly 12:19 and that Joel Guy Jr., the defendant, goes to Walmart at 3:35 the same day. The work has been done at that point. Lisa Guy, Joel Guy Sr. have been murdered. And how do we know that? We know that through proof that came in during the course of this trial, receipts that corroborate the items that were purchased, a receipt that corroborates the date and time, as well as the video. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the last moments of Lisa Guy's life. And you are watching her in the same clothing that she was murdered in, and that was ultimately cut off her body. Not a worry in the world. Little did Lisa Guy know. She had no idea of the terror that awaited her. She came in, what the proof demonstrates, through the front door, brought in groceries, with what the proof demonstrates, without the help of Joel Guy Jr., who at this point had cut hands. She was lured upstairs, up the stairwell, through the doggy door, and brutally attacked. We saw from Investigator McCord and Officer Ballard the blood present on the way up the stairs. And we submit to you that that blood was likely the result of Joel Guy Jr. bringing his mother's decapitated head down the stairwell, ultimately putting it in a stock pot and boiling it for days before it's ultimately discovered. Again, the crime scene diagram demonstrates that this guy came up the stairs, took a left, went through the doggy door, and was ultimately attacked and murdered in location A. We saw the items, the sewer line cleaner, the empty bottles, ladies and gentlemen, of sewer line cleaner, acid-based solution. Her clothing, underwear were cut off, her bra was cut off, her undershirt with numerous stab wounds was cut off, her sweatshirt that she was wearing moments before was cut off. And Mr. Joel Guy Jr. accomplished that with the use of a kitchen knife. And with regard to acting intentionally, ladies and gentlemen, what did we hear from Dr. Haas? Dr. Haas testified that Ms. Guyswell was disarticulated at the shoulders, at the knees. She was decapitated before she was placed in an acid-based solution and left to dissolve. What does that tell us, ladies and gentlemen? At least 31 stab wounds. I submit to you that is acting intentionally. That is someone who is trying to bring about the death of an alleged victim. Again, the judge will instruct you, what is acting intentionally legally? A person acts intentionally when it's the person's conscious, objective, or desire to cause the death of the alleged victim. Joel Guy Jr., the proof establishes in this case, acted intentionally when he stabbed his mother at least 31 times, dismembered her, and decapitated her. We saw the pictures of the back of Lisa Guy, and while they're hard to look at, they paint a picture. We heard about the tails and how these tails on these certain wounds are created and what causes those tails. And it's either the knife moving or the victim trying to move. We also learned that Lisa Guy had 5 stab wounds to her buttock, consistent with trying to get away. The diagrams that Dr. Haas provided us paint a picture. They tell us that not only did Lisa Guy have a tremendous gaping wound on her front, so did Joel Guy Sr. And I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, that is for one purpose, and that is for this chemical-based solution to enter their main cavity to quicken the process of dissolving Joel Guy Sr. and Lisa Guy. What else did we learn about the attack with regard to Lisa Guy? She, like Joel Guy Sr., had wounds that were at least 6 inches deep. And again, thinking to acting intentionally, stabbing someone 6 inches deep. Her injuries, significant injuries. She had injuries to her heart. She had injuries to her kidney, her spine. She had a hole in her back from an attack. She had injuries to her lungs. And if you look at the wounds on her back, that is not surprising. Dr. Murray Marks testified. You heard from him. And you heard about the injuries to her bones. Blunt force injuries with a knife entering with such a thrust that it cuts into her ribs, removes pieces of her ribs. You heard about the process of how Joel Michael Guy Jr. Decapitated her, how he did it awfully high on her neck, and he had to apply some degree of force to separate her head from her neck. Joel Guy Jr.'s own words in the book of premeditation. Remove her clothes and take them with me for disposal. Well, he achieved half his objective, ladies and gentlemen. He removed her clothes. And that's demonstrated by the pictures that were entered in evidence in this case. Investigator Sandy Campbell with the crime scene for the Knox County Sheriff's Office. She recreated how the items of clothing were physically removed and made sense of it in a way that we could understand it. Her pants were cut in the back, up each leg, through to the top, stripped off her stabbed body. Her bra was cut. The rear of her underwear and the crotch area were cut. Her undershirt, evident, ladies and gentlemen, was cut. Again, at least 31 stab wounds or incised wounds of the back, right buttock, and left side of the neck. We heard from Dr. Haas that she was likely attacked from the front and the back, as well as Joel Guy Sr. Lisa Guy had a serious wound that went to the muscle on her clavicle area, and the main attack was to her backside. Joel Guy Sr. had stab wounds to his ribs, and again, the main attack was to his backside. Joel Guy Jr. cut off his mother's sweatshirt, same sweatshirt she was wearing just moments earlier. And again, in looking at that through Sandy Campbell, evidence in this proof in this case, we can see that this sweatshirt was cut off. And what does Joel Michael Guy Jr. do after he kills his parents? He goes to tend to himself. He buys the requisite supplies he needs to treat his wounds that he obtained in a fight with his dad, Joel Guy Sr., who was trying to stop an assault, a murder. So with regard to premeditated first-degree murder, ladies and gentlemen, the proof has showed to you, beyond a reasonable doubt, the three necessary elements. That the defendant unlawfully killed Lisa and Joel Guy Sr. He didn't have a reason to do so. He didn't act in self-defense. The proof has shown that he intentionally killed them. Again, Joel Guy Sr. stabbed at least 41 times. Lisa Guy is stabbed at least 32 times. When we consider premeditation, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to belabor the point, but we have him starting up to 19 days before the commission of these offenses, these brutal murders, purchasing supplies that he intends to use in his grand plan to obtain $500,000. We submit to you that the book of murder, the notebook that he drafted with his DNA on it, that is corroborated by every piece of evidence in this case, we submit to you that that shows premeditation beyond a reasonable doubt. Next, with regard to felony murder. As you know, Mr. Guy is charged with felony murder in 3 counts, 2 for the thefts that are committed in the perpetration of the killing, and 1 for the killing of Lisa Guy in the commission of killing Joel Guy Sr. So the elements for felony murder are a little bit different, and what the state must prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt is that Joel Michael Guy Jr., again, unlawfully killed Joel Guy Sr. and Lisa Guy, and that the killing was committed in the perpetration of the theft. The theft in this case being the money transfers, the pills. The defendant, Joel Michael Guy Jr., in possession of his father's card that was used on the 27th to make 3 significant transactions. The 27th being a day after what the proof demonstrates the victims were slain in this case. Furthermore, you saw the wallets, ladies and gentlemen. You saw the wallets laying on the dining room table. You saw Joel Guy Sr.'s wallet empty. You saw on the video Lisa Guy shopping. She was in possession of that wallet just moments before she was murdered. You heard proof through Eddie Wassman at the Sheriff's Department, who specializes in forensic examination of electronic devices. You heard from him that on the 27th, in conducting a forensic analysis of the desktop computer that belonged to Joel Guy Sr. and Lisa Guy, that he came across transfers that were planned or happened on the 27th of November 2016. The first one being at 9:38 a.m. using card, ladies and gentlemen, 5773 for the amount of $1,025. 2 minutes later, same day, 9:40 a.m., same card, ending in 5773, was charged $1,589.78. 1 minute later, on the 27th of November 2016, card ending in 5773 was charged $2,051.03, all of which are going to the bursar operations. And we heard from Investigator Wassman that based on his investigation, he was able to determine that that was a payment to the Louisiana State University. Proof is established that Joel Michael Guy Jr. Was a student at Louisiana State University. Again, in considering the crime scene, ladies and gentlemen, what you have up here is the guest bedroom. We've seen ample pictures of the guest bedroom, all the items in the guest bedroom, but particularly next to the bottle of food-grade hydrogen peroxide with Joel Michael Guy Jr.'s DNA and blood on there is a card that belongs to his father, a card that was used a day after his death to make 3 money transfers. Close-up of that card. Again, last 4 digits, 5773. That is a theft that's committed in the perpetration of this murder, these murders. We also learned from Eddie Wassman that upon looking at the computer, there were transfers of Capital One, an account belonging to Joel Guy Sr., that occurred on 11/27/2016, 3:49 p.m. You have the SunTrust records before you, ladies and gentlemen. I would ask you to consider those. Look at those. They're in evidence. And what you'll find is that on the 27th, with a posting date of the 28th, a check card purchase from Joel Guy Sr.'s account was charged an amount of $3,090, particularly a organization, Submeter 1, in Louisiana. With regard to the pills, ladies and gentlemen, we've seen proof. Let's start with the kitchen. Let's start with the empty oxycodone bottle found next to the pot that Lisa Guy's head was simmering in for days after Joel Michael Guy Jr. left. We know that stove was on, based on the pictures you've seen, when investigators entered that residence at 11434 Golden View Lane. It doesn't stop there. We go up to the guest bedroom, and we have various prescription pills signed to Joel Michael Guy with the address of 11434 Golden View Lane. We have other pills that have been prescribed to Lisa Guy with an address of 11434 Golden View Lane. With regard to the felony murder, the judge is going to instruct you on some law that's helpful when determining this type of charge. And essentially, what's relevant in our argument is that the killing may precede, coincide with, or follow the theft. So the killing can occur before the theft and still be considered as occurring in the perpetration of the theft, so long as there is a connection in time, place, and continuity of action. Let's talk about first the connection in time, ladies and gentlemen. What do we know about the 26th? We know that Lisa Guy went to Walmart. We know that Joel Guy went to Walmart. We know that they were executed on the 26th. We know that he had a plan to murder his father and wait until his mother was out before he murdered her. Connection in time. It's demonstrated here. We know that at 3:26, Joel Michael Guy Jr. is entering Walmart Turkey Creek here in Knox County, Tennessee, with bandages on his hands. We know that he used cash. We know that it occurred on 11/26 at 15:35, which translates to 3:35. Connection in place. Ladies and gentlemen, the proof has showed to you and demonstrated that all the offenses charged in this case occurred here in Knox County, Tennessee, specifically at the 11434 Golden View Lane address here in Knoxville. That would be the murders of Joel Guy Sr. and Lisa Guy, as well as the thefts. We know that Joel Guy Jr. didn't leave until the late hours of the 27th into the 28th. That's when he spotted heading back to Louisiana by the use of the license plate reader through Vigilant Solutions. Continuity of action. What this case shows us is that there's no broken plan after the homicide has been committed. There's no broken plan after the thefts have been committed. The only broken plan here is Joel Michael Guy Jr. leaving to tend to his wounds. But he wasn't done. He had a plan to light this house on fire. He had a plan to bring 4 5-gallon tanks of gasoline with him. He had a plan to use commercial timers to ignite a fire. He had a plan to light in electronics, namely a hair curler and a hair dryer to start a fire. He was not done. There's another count of felony murder that deals with the killing committed during the perpetration of the first-degree premeditated murder of Joel Guy Sr. Essentially, that's dealing with Lisa Guy being the victim in this count, where she is murdered during the commission of Joel Guy Sr.'s premeditated first-degree murder. And again, I don't want to belabor it, but we know that it's in the commission based on Joel Guy Jr.'s own words, his own words, from his book of premeditation. Again, what's relevant here, the killing may precede, coincide with, or follow the first-degree murder of Joel Guy Sr. and still be considered as occurring in the perpetration of the murder of Joel Guy Sr., so long as there's, again, connection in time, place, and continuity of action. We believe that the proof in this case certainly establishes that, ladies and gentlemen. Next, we have two counts dealing with the abuse of a corpse, namely the corpse of Lisa Guy and of Joel Guy Sr. And what we have to prove to you, beyond a reasonable doubt, is that the defendant, Joel Guy Jr., did physically mistreat a corpse in a manner offensive to the sensibilities of an ordinary person, and that the defendant acted without legal privilege to do so. In other words, he's not a medical examiner, he's not a coroner. He acted without a legal privilege to do so, and we have to establish that he acted knowingly. So what is the proof demonstrated to us with regard to the abuse of a corpse of Lisa Guy? The decapitation with thermal changes of head. That's abuse of a corpse, ladies and gentlemen. He didn't have a legal standing to decapitate his mother, Lisa Guy, and to simmer her head for 2 days. He didn't have a legal right to dismember or disarticulate Lisa Guy at the head, the shoulders, the knees, one hand. He didn't have a legal right to put Lisa Guy in an acid-based solution and leave her to dissolve. With regard to the abuse of the corpse of Joel Guy Sr., he did not have a legal right to disarticulate his father or dismember his father at the hands, at the arms, at the shoulders, at the hips. He did not have a legal right to then place his father in an acid-based solution in an attempt to dissolve him. Now the judge is going to instruct you regarding what flight is, what the flight is of a person accused, and I ask you to pay attention to that, ladies and gentlemen, particularly as it relates to these facts. And essentially, you'll hear it again from the judge, but the flight of a person accused of a crime is a circumstance which, when considered with all the facts of the case, may justify an inference of guilt. Flight is the voluntary withdrawal of oneself for the purpose of evading arrest or prosecution for the crime charged. You will also hear an instruction on tampering with evidence, and I ask you to pay attention to that as it applies to this case as well. The judge will instruct you as to that. Last, ladies and gentlemen, look at the pictures in this case. The house demonstrates the love that the guys had for their only son. Joel and Lisa Guy, they did love Joel Guy Jr. We've heard proof from sisters who testified they had a loving family. We heard proof that they supported their only son. In fact, the only reason Lisa Guy worked was to support Joel Guy Jr. while he attended school in Louisiana. Proof in this case demonstrates that Lisa Guy and Joel Guy Sr. suffered. They suffered a great deal. Think about the exercise room, ladies and gentlemen, the struggle, the wounds to Joel Guy Sr.'s hands. Ultimately, they didn't deserve his death. Their lives mattered.
That weekend, Joel Guy was outgoing, friendly, and happy in a way Michelle Tyler had never seen him before. Outgoing, friendly, and happy. That was not a man about to commit a homicide. Outgoing, friendly, and happy. You saw it in the picture from the front porch. Smiling, happy. That's who Joel Guy was that weekend. He was not someone planning on committing a murder. That's why we have to look at every fact to see if this adds up. Because just from that very start, outgoing, friendly, and happy does not add up to what happened here. Rage, anger, and death. Now the state tells us to store videos, Ace Hardware, well, you can see him purchasing the food grade hydrogen peroxide. You can't. You can't tell what that is. You can't tell what any of those containers are from Ace. We don't have a receipt. We don't know what was bought at Ace Hardware. The notebook, they tell us, well, they did note DNA on the outside of the notebook. So that means on at some point, someone touched the outside of that notebook. What about DNA on the writing on the inside? When you write, your hand's often in contact with the paper. Touch DNA would be all over that. That's the thing that you want to know, isn't it? Is his DNA on the part where there's a writing? We didn't do that. Page at 5 pages, we could have done that. Hand on the paper when you're writing. They didn't do that. And on the notebook, they also did not bring in a handwriting sample to say, yes, this is his writing. The burden is on them to prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt. And they didn't do that. But then, 10 days before trial, suddenly they decide they have to test 2 more knives. And suddenly, in a rush, they can get us 2 more knives worth of DNA. They pick and choose. We just don't know if it's all accurate. We believe the state has not proven any of these charges beyond a reasonable doubt. We ask that you find Mr. Guy not guilty.
Thank you, Mr. Halstead.
Money, all mine. He had made calculations. He had thought about it. He spent some time. I mean, it's sort of a meticulous account of his intentions. And in a case where somebody is charged with premeditated murder, and I've tried many premeditated homicides, usually you have to put premeditation together circumstantially. And many times I have argued to a jury that you will have to put facts A, B, C, D, and E together to prove this element of premeditation. It's not like you'll have a notebook or an outline or a diary entry that's going to tell you every time. And how ironic that I finally got a case where I have that. That's exactly what we have. And he's not used to supporting himself. He's used to having the support and care from his mother, primarily, taking care of his needs, providing him with an apartment, with utilities, with a car, gas money, paying his bills, his tuition, paying for his books, paying for everything. He's used to having her pay for everything. And he wasn't about to let them cut him off. That was not going to happen. These people, they were not going to disrupt his comfortable life. He wasn't going to permit it. He would rather see them dead than let that happen. Let's talk about how hard it was to kill Mom and Dad. I want you to think about the last moments that Joel Guy Sr. spent on this earth. He was attacked by his own son. He had to fight him off, and it was a fierce fight. You saw the evidence in that room. I don't have to show it to you again. You saw his hands, both of his hands. At some point, that man had his hands on the knife that his son was using to kill him. And he did it for money. And after he killed her, I don't know what time it was probably sometime after 12:30. He left their bodies to cool off, because he was hurt and he had to go take care of himself. Do you remember seeing Lisa's purse on that? It was the kitchen table, not the dining room table, and her wallet. He had done that, okay? The police didn't do that. The defendant had gone through her purse and had taken out her wallet and his father's wallet, and he got money. Okay, he needed cash. Lisa Guy paid for the medical supplies that he bought to treat his hands that he hurt when he was killing his father. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen? She was still looking for a job in Seguinsville. Do you remember Renee Charles telling you that? She wasn't going to cut him off. She was going to find a job up there. She was going to keep supporting him. Oh my goodness. She gave him everything he wanted. And then she had the nerve to tell him that they were tired and needed a break. Nobody else had a reason to do this, okay? No one else. And the proof in this case isn't strong. It isn't it isn't anything other than overwhelming. Overwhelming. And we ask you to consider everything in this case, and we ask you to convict him of premeditated murder, convict him of felony murder, and convict him of abusing the corpses of his mother and his father. Thank you.
All right, let the record reflect the court sees that all 7 verdict forms have been completed and signed by our foreperson. Officer Coe, if you'd please return that to our foreperson. And Madam Foreperson, I'm going to ask if you please stand up, and I would ask you to take a couple steps to your left so you're near the microphone. And I'm going to have you publish the jury's findings. I'd like you to turn to the verdict form for the first count. And if you please announce your findings by reading the sentence, "We, the jury, find the defendant," and then announce your findings.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Joel Michael Guy, guilty of first-degree premeditated murder of Joel Guy Sr.
Count number 2, please.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Joel Michael Guy, guilty of first-degree premeditated murder of Lisa Guy.
Count number 3.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Joel Michael Guy, guilty of first-degree felony murder of Lisa Guy.
Count number 4.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Joel Michael Guy, guilty of first-degree felony murder of Joel Guy Sr.
Count number 5.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Joel Michael Guy, guilty of felony murder of Lisa Guy.
Count number 6.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Joel Michael Guy, guilty of abuse of a corpse of Joel Guy Sr.
And count number 7.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Joel Michael Guy, guilty of abuse of a corpse of Lisa Guy.
Thank you, Madam Foreperson. If you please return that to Officer Coker for the record. You may have a seat by stating your name, your relationship to the victims, and then tell me how this impacted you.
Yes, sir. My name's Alvin Madera Jr. I'm the oldest brother of Lisa Guy and brother-in-law of Joe Guy. Proceed? It's with heavy heart and tormented spirit that I make the statement to the members of this court. I'm many things. I'm a father, I'm a grandfather, I'm a husband, I'm a brother, I'm an uncle, and I'm a son. I I've been blessed to see many wonderful things on this earth. I watched my stepson grow to become a man. I've been there for my grandchildren. I watched them grow to become little people. Your parents cannot do these things, Joe Michael, if because of the crime you've committed. My sister Lisa Guy was truly one of the most loving, caring, and forgiving people on the face of this earth. Her husband, my brother-in-law, Joe Guy Sr., was honestly one of the most down-to-earth, hard-working, and kind people I ever met. They were the type of people who would help anyone out whenever they could. My sister was the type of person who loved deeply. She loved the family, she loved her mother, she loved her father, her sister, and I. Her husband, she loved her children and stepchildren. She loved her grandchildren. Her love was taken. It was taken from this world by murder. My sister and brother-in-law loved family. They enjoyed holidays. Some of my favorite memories I have of her and him were from holidays. We could sit around and tell fun and interesting stories. My brother-in-law was an amazing storyteller, and our family holidays will never be the same without them there. Lisa and Joe were murdered. They were butchered. Their bodies were desecrated. Their spirits were forever harmed. The loss of my family members will forever be eternal. I stand for them in their statement. Days after hearing of Joe and Lisa's murder, my mother was hospitalized. She never exited the hospital. The loss of your child was difficult for her, one that I hope I never have to endure. But to find out your daughter was murdered by your own grandchild was heartbreaking. Literally, she could not even attend the funeral. She was unable to say her final prayers. She was Catholic. She was unable to take communion at her daughter's funeral. Excuse me. The next day after we buried Joel and Lisa, my mother died. They fought to bring her back. She truly died of a broken heart. There are 3 deaths on your hand, on Joe Michael Guy Jr.'s hands. My grandchildren lost their great-grandmother. My stepson lost his grandmother. And I lost my mother. On that day, I lost my family. My mother is gone. My sister is gone. The world has forever changed. The impact of this crime is notorious. My grandchildren's grandchildren will be able to read about this horrible, disgusting crime. We will never, ever be the same. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you.
Robin White.
No, I know your name, but just for the record, if you'd state it again and your relationship to the
Robin
loss.
White, and Joel Sr. was my brother. Lisa was like my sister. And I waited a long time for this, 4 years now. Took away my brother and my sister Lisa, the 2 precious people he's took from my family and me. It was a heartless and selfish thing. I will never get to see or talk to him or be a part of my brother and my sister's life no more. The night I heard about this, I knew who done it, because in my heart I did. And Mike and Lisa, I called him my brother Mike. I didn't call him Joel. He was so fun, and Lisa, I done a lot with him. We was together a lot, and I missed that. Now that's gone. I'll never get that back. And he was so proud to have his grandchildren, and they miss their papa. He won't get to watch them grow up, him or Lisa, either one now. And their daughters, They won't get to see their father and the woman that they looked up to, a mom, ever again. And I'll never have my brother with me again. But justice has prevailed today, and I am so thankful for that. I had a lot of stuff wrote, but I ain't going to say all of it, so I just want to thank everybody here for what they've done, the job they've done, and you, Your Honor, thank you, and to everybody here. I appreciate it, and I better just shut up now and go home back. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. White. I'm sorry for your loss.
Shanda, speak.
If you could just say your name and your relationship to the loss, please.
Chanda Stink. Joel Guy was my dad, and Lisa was my stepmom. They, I don't have a statement ready, so I'm just speaking from the heart. But I want to first of all, just so I don't forget, say thank you to all law enforcement and the lawyers, the court, the jury, everyone that had to see all this. And I'm very sorry that this evil's had to come into their life too. And that I will be praying for all of them as I do for my family as well. Dad and Lisa were wonderful. They were larger than life. They were so happy and such really good people. And they loved him. They loved him so much. They loved all of us. And for anyone to do what he did, I don't understand it. He has taken something from myself, from my children, his Dad and Lisa's grandchildren, my husband, everyone in our family. He has taken something from us that we'll never get back. We will. I pray that we can move on from this and that we can put this behind us. I pray that my children are not going to be scarred for life from this. The tears that's come from them, the nightmares. I'm so thankful for today. I'm thankful that this day is done. And I'm so thankful that the jury decided guilty on all counts. And I'm thankful for you giving me the opportunity to speak today. Thanks. Thanks.
Angela Crane.
And if you begin by stating your name and your relationship.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Angela Crane, and Joel and Lisa Guy were my parents. I wasn't prepared to speak today. It's like for 4 years, I felt like I've pushed it down like it's not actually happening. But it's real. And they're gone. And Dad was my best friend. And I'll never get to hear his laugh again. Or his just incredible hugs. I'll never get to sit and banter with him and hear the same stories we've all heard over and over, but they're still just as hilarious because Dad was such a storyteller. I'll never get to go fishing with him or what he likes to say, have a cocktail. Or it's 5 o'clock somewhere. I was robbed of having my father walk me down the aisle. And Lisa, my last mother on earth, was taken away. She was the most loving and giving person I've ever met. She She would give the shirt off her back to anyone, the last dime to anyone. And she was my best friend too. They were both robbed of seeing their grandchildren, their handsome boys, grow up and turn into incredible men. And for them to have to go through this tragedy so young is just, it's heartbreaking. I still have Dad on speed dial. Like, it hurts me every day not to be able to speak to him. The rest of my life is not going to be the same for any of us. And I know there's a void that will not be replaced until that beautiful day when we meet again. Thank you, Your Honor.
I'm sorry. Ms. Tyler, if you'd begin by stating your name and your relationship, please.
Yes, my name is Michelle Tyler, and my relationship is I am Joel and Lisa's daughter. I'm going to have to put this mask on because that mask smothers me.
That's fine.
That's all right. First, I would like to say that I don't know if you all have a hero, but I have.
Ms. Tyler, I'm going to give you permission to take the screen off. There's nobody within 6 feet.
Thank
facing
you.
I'm just having a hard time hearing you. I think it's appropriate to make an exception in this case. Go ahead.
Thank you. I don't know if you all have a hero, but I have heroes, and it's such an awful situation to even have to have heroes, but I thank all of you all sitting here and everyone back there that are still here for 5 days and 7 days, and you've been here every time. Every single one of you are my hero. As a little girl, I watched how much Lisa loved Joel Michael. I wanted to be that mom. Joel Michael was Lisa's entire world. Most girls dream of weddings, I think. I don't know. But I dreamed of being Lisa with the picture-perfect family, with the dad coming home at 5 and me having dinner. I wanted to love as strong as Lisa loved. The dinner at Dad's and Lisa's home included meat, which was so different. We would stay there in the summer, but we were at my dad lived like 6 hours or hours away, and so we stayed at my mom's. Included meat, which was so different at my house where we grew up poor, and it was just pasta. So when we went to that house, it was like meat and candy, and they provided a loving and caring home with all the extra stuff. Some of this I can't read that sentence either. My dreams were to spend the next 40 years at Thanksgiving and Christmas laughing with my parents. My dreams were to move Lisa and Dad into my home. I would even banter with them about them moving into my home when they were old, to model for my kids how to take care of your parents in the last days, because I'm moving in with my kids when I get old. But I wanted them to see that, like I got to see my mom take care of her parents. I got to see my mom stand by her parents' bed when they died, and I wanted that. My dream was to hold my mom's, Lisa's hand as she took her last breath. My dream was to hold my dad's hand as he took his last breath. People take moments like that for granted, but I wanted those moments with my whole soul. Not only that, the kid's childhood was taken away. I am angry for my dreams being destroyed, but I'm not the only one that's been affected. This has impacted my kids, and for that I will never be able to forgive. I rest easy knowing that God is okay with my choice not to forgive someone that has murdered my parents. I had to spend the last 4 years saving my kids' soul, their spirits, and their hearts. I have spent the last 4 years cleaning up a mess. No one will ever know what it's like to be a child having to hear that your grandmother's head was cooking in a pot because the person that did it had the perfect childhood. He, especially not a man with that childhood. And on a super selfish note, you'll never know, not meaning you, meaning what it is like to have to tell your children that their grandparents have been chopped up and put in acid. Can my kids ever trust again? Would I ever really be able to trust again? I was always so proud of Lisa, and I told everyone that she was the best stay-at-home mom. I mourn for my dad, and know I keep talking about Lisa. I mourn terribly for my dad, I do. But I grieve and rage for Lisa. I rage for her from the mother's point of view. I cry for her because I wonder if when she realized the love of her life, the only son she had, the child that she gave her entire life to, was about to murder her. I have to edit that. Stop right there. I wonder if at that moment when her heart was broken, did she even fight? Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Anyone else? There'll be an additional time for victim impact statements should anyone choose to make it when we come back for entry of judgment. Does anybody else need to address the court today? All right, thank you, folks. So I do receive the victim impact testimony from the family. As a judge, I'm required to make sentences based upon the law and the evidence in the case. Your emotion is completely understandable, and your pain is completely understandable. As a judge, that cannot have any influence on the decision that I make. But I'm also a human being, so I want you to know that you do have my sympathy. I know this has been very difficult. If I weren't the judge and I were a friend, I would spend a lot of time sitting down and talk to you, but I am the judge, so it would be inappropriate for me to be your counselor. The one thing I will say to the family is several of you have expressed how your faith has played a role in how you're dealing with this. So in your faith tradition, you can read in Romans 5, where Scripture says, where sin did abound, grace did much more abound. And so it's my prayer to you that you will find God's abounding grace to help you get through this. But you do have my sympathy. At this point, though, that sympathy has to end, and I have to make legal determinations. So I hope you understand when I pronounce sentence in this case, it's not a value judgment on the life of Joel and Lisa Guy. It's a judgment based upon the facts of this case in the law. All right. So we do need to set a sentencing date before we enter the sentences on the first-degree murder case. We need to get a pre-sentence investigation report conducted. That takes about 45 days. Today is October 2nd, so that would put us somewhere in the neighborhood of November 13th or the 19th. I guess if the defense will weigh the 45 days, I would suggest probably November 19.
19?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that good? General, is that okay for the state? All right, so we'll set sentencing date for November 19th. Since we do have verdicts on first-degree murder, the court is required by law to go ahead and enter those sentences, or at least pronounce those sentences. I won't be able to enter judgment because we have to know if there will be consecutive sentences in this case, and we'll also need to pronounce the sentence on the abuse of a corpse on the November 19th day. But at this time, Mr. Guy, I'm going to ask you to please stand. Joel Michael Guy, in docket number 110145, after being tried by a jury of peers of the first-degree premeditated murder of Joel Michael Guy, the court now sentences you to life in prison in the Tennessee Department of Corrections. Count number 2, after being found guilty by a jury of peers of the first-degree premeditated murder of Lisa Guy, I now enter sentence of life in prison in the Tennessee Department of Corrections. Count number 3 is the first-degree felony murder during the perpetration of first-degree premeditated murder of Lisa Guy. The court now sentences you to life in prison in that count to merge into count number 2. Count number 4 is first-degree felony murder during the perpetration of theft of Joel Guy Sr. The court sentences you to life in prison in Tennessee Department of Corrections. That will merge into count number 1. Count number 5 is the first-degree felony murder during the perpetration of theft of Lisa Guy. The court sentences you to life in prison. That will merge with count number 2. That will be the court sentence. Court stands adjourned.